Alrighty, it's that time again, everybody. We are having a lot of fun. I don't know about a lot of fun. We're going to end up, the CFS isn't working. And so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to tear that apart. It has the FR2835 error, which means there's some type of clog or obstruction, or maybe there's some gears messed up in there. Printed out some stuff last night, and or actually yesterday. Everything went fine, and then I printed out another Star Wars little kit card thing, with the snow speeder, made it a little bit bigger, and I started running into problems, and then came up with the error, the FR2835, the feed error loader to the CFS hub. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to go through and we're going to work on this thing. Yeah. Not something that I wanted to do today, but I think we're going to have to do that. So while I do this, you can go ahead and like the video, and we're just going to talk and ramble and take this thing apart and see what we can find out. And hopefully we can be able to fix this up, because I would like to do the snow speeder kit card and get that to my daughter. I think that'd be kind of cool. So we're going to go ahead and transfer over to that view right there. There it is. The CFS is all there. Terry says afternoon. Yes, afternoon it is, unfortunately. Well, not that it's the afternoon, but that the CFS is having a problem. So we're going to get all set up here, and had a good gym day too. So yeah, looking forward to that. And like I ended up saying, what we'll end up doing is we'll get the tablet going so we can read any comments. So that is the error, the feed error, and it's going from the feeder to the CFS hub, which is on the bottom of this beast. So what we're going to end up doing is we're just going to go ahead and rock this back. And so it was on this one here. I'm not sure. Everything looks to be okay, at least as far as spinning and all of that good stuff. That doesn't seem to be a problem. If we look into, I don't know how we're going to do this, but if you look into the hole here, where the little receptacle is for your little feed tube, you can actually look down there and you can see all the teeth in there. So we definitely have all the teeth, as I'm taking a look at that. So we're good there. There's no missing teeth. Missing teeth are bad. And I'm trying to remember how to take this thing apart. So, because it's been a little bit. Let's see, Rara. I just replaced my bottom hub and main board, so feel free to ask questions if need to. Okay, cool, awesome. And the PTFE tubes. Yeah, that recently I went ahead and changed these things out because there were some problems, or just a tiny bit of wear, and we've got over 1,000 hours. So it's been doing well, but unfortunately, it's not doing well now. But I will take you up on that, and let's check and see if I can kind of see. Okay, we got all the teeth on that one, so we're good. I took this apart recently, and so the little buffer tube thing should be good to go. I use new PTFE tubing, so that shouldn't be an issue. And I always wondered what that was. I don't know what that's for, but it is what it is. And to be able to take this thing apart, I'm going to need, oh, that's not going to fit in there, is there? I'm going to need those Allen keys. I thought I was going to be smart. just use the tools. But I guess not. Okay, so now we have Allen keys. Rara says, take the bottom screws off of the bottom hub, then remove PTF tubes so you can remove the feeder hub inside the CFS. Were you Army? Yes, I was. I absolutely was Army. I did my 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm assuming these, it's been a while since I've done this, but yeah, I was in the Army, and I did that, did a career, did 20 years, and then got out, and then, because I was tired of people telling me what to do, especially the people that didn't know my job. So, you always had those nut jobs. And then I worked for, I did some other stuff, did some real estate investing, worked for the state of Colorado, electronics, I worked for Department of Corrections. So yeah. Rara says, first armored cab out of Germany. Cool. Well, congratulations. Always good to have another veteran. And we've got 1, 2, 3 screws. Seriously. That one's gone. So, first cab out of Germany, 2003 to 2007. Awesome. There's the last little booger. Okay, so we got that. So those 4 there. So we should be able to dig this thing out. The one thing I don't like about this thing is this right here. This little lever that disengages your hub, the gears on that. So when you have to manually retract filament back onto the spool and you have to press that down, good Lord, is that hard. That is probably in the worst place ever to put that. So just throwing that out there. And how did this come out? There we go. It's probably these things here. So what we're going to end up doing is we will take these and get these out of there, maybe, hopefully. Probably easier to I was in a cab, but I was in 3.6 cab, 4.7 cab. It was kind of the air cab. And then there was the, well, actually it wasn't just air cab. We had an air cab here in Korea that was up north in Camp Pelham. We had armor and then we had air assets as well. So that was fun. Try to put these in a semblance of order. So we've got this little guy here, so unplug that, and then we get another one here, so we can do that. So yeah, I spent a lot of time in Korea. Didn't end up going to Europe, even though I tried. And so in there, right on that wheel, and that is that horrible wheel that is the gears are good. Everything's plugged in, so we're good to go there. Robert says, so your CFS was throwing up an error on printing, or was it just your CFS not working and having symptoms? Actually, I started to print and I sent a file over to the printer and started going through the things for the calibration. That it popped up and said yeah, and so I ended up with a the red error light on this spool right here, and so I pulled it out, put it back in, still had the red light, so I shut everything down, brought it back up, fed the filament in there again, and again nothing but red. So let's see, so I'll just go through here. I'll take this off, this plate glass little thing that we got going. Clear plastic, I should say. So Rama says, and with my fingers I have a bitter relationship with PTFE tubes. Yep, they're fun and interesting. Mine wasn't throwing errors, but it wouldn't feed filament, and bottom hub just made whining noises, so I replaced everything. Okay. I had an error on this once before, and I took it apart, cleaned it, checked everything, and then we didn't have any problems since then. Matter of fact, let's get a probably get a little brush here. Hopefully I won't have to order parts. That would be, that'd be a little rough since I'm in Korea. So, but everything looks okay here. All the gears are fine. Everything seems to be working good, or looks good anyway. So we'll see how that goes. So, and I'd replaced these tubes. Yeah, that's what it was. Because I figured if I had problems, I'll just go ahead and replace all the PTFE tubes. And we didn't have any issues. Love the way this is made. Okay, I need that, and I think we're gonna end up taking these two off. Take this faceplate. We can get a closer look and see what's going on. Try to remember where I put all these screws. We got two there. I think there was a couple more. Yeah. On the side. Yeah, last time I just had to clean it out, and I think I had a similar error. And then that fixed it. But I have heard of a lot of people that were having problems with that, with this hub unit. So hopefully I won't need one of those. And I was just doing a multicolored print. It was just two colors, it was like gray and red, but it was still, I do have some little dingleberries in there. Okay. But other than that, it's been good. I haven't had any problems. And if we take a look at the gears look okay. So that isn't a problem. But I do use I'm using Polymaker PLA. They're matte black and matte white, and they're on those cardboard rolls. So, but I don't see anything. I don't see any problems. Like you would think if something was grinding or winding, you know, like maybe the gears were those gears look fine, so nothing's stripped out on there. So all I'm doing is turning that to look at the gear that is right on this right side. You got the ones here that you can easily take a look at, but these are everything looks fine. I'm not missing any teeth on that. And it doesn't look like I'm missing any teeth on that bottom one either. So, Robert says, one way to tell if the bottom hub is bad is if any of the electronics look like they had a shiny grease spot. On mine, I had one that had 4 filament sensor transistors or whatever, looked greasy. I wish I could make the chat bigger. Can I? No. Because I'm using a tiny. So, let's take a closer look. Sensor transistors, or whatever they're called. No, I don't see anything. There is a little dingleberry of a on that piece, but that's not the one we're looking at. But all of these, I'll just check all of them. And these things really weren't made for easy. I mean, it's okay to troubleshoot, but it's not too bad, but it could be better. And everything is plugged in, so we're good to go. Honestly, I don't see anything. And the little boards here, there's no damage that I can see. All the components look good. It doesn't look like anything's blown out, so. So, interesting. Okay. Guess what we'll end up doing. Hopefully this is just like a little speck that got in there and didn't really enjoy where it was at or whatever. So, well, that looks good. I guess what we'll end up doing is we'll put this back together. And I should have checked that little blue light on the hub here, because each one of these pathways has a light that goes to like this little limit switch here. Those little lines there are those limit switches, little activated switch, so when your filament goes in there, it pushes it down. I don't see any problems with that. So, alrighty. Make sure we're not pinching anything. Put all this back together. Get the right size. Yes, it is. Or no, is this size? Question is, do I get Amazon deliveries where I live? Yes, I actually can. It just takes like a week and a half to get stuff. And then there is, if it's over $150, then I have to pay a VAT or tariff or whatever it is, VAT tax, value added tax. So that's not too bad. There's a big chunk of red that just popped in. So I got that. Verithus pops in. Yeah, CFS teardown. Oh, what's going on? Yeah, I got the, what was it, the FR2835, which is from this to the hub and kind of crapped out on this one here, the one on the far right side. So turning it on and off didn't fix the problem, so got to do the teardown thing, which has worked in the past. So I'm hoping that that is the case here. But Ra was telling me that he had some problems and he had to end up getting the unit. And honestly, I thought about getting one of these, at least get like, this board, because these things are pretty resilient. The switches and stuff like that. I mean, that's not really going to be a problem. It's most likely probably going to be the two boards here. So, and then talking about Reddit, there were some people that were saying that they were having problems with their hub system, and all they ended up doing was loosening the board and then resetting it, just kind of moving it around because, I don't know, it wasn't set right, it was pinching or something like that. And so they just kind of loosened it up and then just kind of double check the little levers on there, the mechanical switches, kind of like a limit switch on the other side, and that fixed the problem for a number of people. So the question as far as something stuck or an electronics problem, I'm not sure. So far it didn't seem to be mechanical. We already blew all this out. And there was a big chunk of red that fell out. This, you can see right there, that was somewhere in there. So hopefully that is the culprit. But I just want to double check everything and see if that is the deal. But I think what I'll end up doing is I'll probably order another one of these, or these small boards or whatever. I'll have to take a look and see. And yeah, it should be good to go. That board, yeah, need to read Reddit, yep. Ferrith says, I haven't had issues with the CFS yet, only a few buffers. Yeah, I had the buffer thing happen as well. And I had to replace the buffer because the buffer was bad. So I had to do that one, and I did have an extra one because some people said, hey, you need to probably have an extra one of those. So that's why I had that. And now that you mention it, so the Creality page says feed issue, filament may be stuck from loader to the CFS hub. So this might be the culprit right there, that little piece of red, because that's a sizable chunk. That is probably the biggest chunk I pulled out. So I'm gonna say that's it. Feeder not working properly, filament can't be pulled due to excessive resistance, which could have been that if it was stuck in some causeway. Filament spool, rotate shaft, yeah, abnormalities. Feeding tube, check feeding tube is bent, damaged, whatever, yeah. Filament brake detector at the hub outlet is damaged. Check to see if the metal dome of the filament brake detector triggers normally. Under normal circumstances, the LED light behind should light up. If it doesn't light up, the filament brake detector may be damaged. So, okay, yeah. So apparently that's what that picture is there. It says if the problem persists, check the feeder's working status to ensure normally, check the feeding motor's operation status, confirm the shaft can rotate smoothly, which we did on all of these, and that the motor is working normally, ensure the motor gear is intact. Yep. So, okay. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take a close-up picture of this baby right here. So that way I can get the name of this thing and then what it looks like, and try to get this one there. Yeah, I can get that out of the way. I think we're good. You get another one of this one just in case. So that way I can look those up and I can have some spare partage. So with that, we can stick these tubes back in. Anything. Bet you guys didn't know I blew pretty good, huh? But only on my CFS. I only blow my CFS. Nothing else. Yeah, those cardboard spools, I don't know. Maybe I should, I got on that kick of Polymaker, PLA, because that mat turns out really good. I'm wondering if I should just go back to the regular Creality, the ones with the plastic spools, but I really wish Creality would have the plastic spools and then be able to refill them, kind of like what Bamboo does. But, yeah, I guess they don't do that. Just knocked over all my screws. Okay, so, and I need an Allen key that's got a magnetic tip, or I just need to magnetize this tip. That's what I need to do. I keep complaining about that, but let me see if I get a magnet. And I just so happen to have magnets. Boom! So this is a little print, kind of a cool little thing. You can put magnets in there, and so we got that. Rara says, parts are readily available. Ferrithus says that. Haven't had any issues. Whole bottom piece can be sold as one part. Yeah, I've seen that. I think it's like $29 US. Yeah, somewhere around there. It's like $29, $30, somewhere around there. I know in Korea they order it from overseas and it ends up it's a little bit more expensive. So there's that. What was I going to do? I was going to magnetize. Is that it? That was it. You want to hear a funny story? I ended up getting these magnets, and I was going to do a project with them, and then it took a while because they ran out, and then I started doing some other stuff, and then I totally forgot. Then I totally forgot what I was going to use those magnets for. So, I don't know. The question is, can is it seated enough? Yep. First one in. Yeah, I definitely need to get some spare parts. So that one's in. Magnetized is so nice. When I worked for the Colorado State of Corrections, Department of Corrections, like I said, I was a guard. I did that, and then I was a lieutenant, and then I was an electronics technician. And I remember we had this guy in our maintenance, in one of the maintenance sections, and he's going through and he's asking me, he's like, hey, I need to find some tools, like screwdrivers and, Phillips and whatever, regular, that were magnetized. And because he said some people were complaining that, they were dropping all the tools or the screws and whatever, and they were having problems with that. And so it was like, so he's like, I can't find any. And it's like, they're not hard to find. But I told him, I said, well, I know a guy, and I might be able to hook you up. So tell me which tools that you have that, you would like that magnetized, and I'll check it out. So what I ended up doing is, again, just getting a big magnet, running it across, doing this for like a couple of minutes, and got all the tools back to him. I might as well just do all of these. And I told him, I said, hey, I don't know what your problem is, but all of those tools are magnetized. And he had given me the tools, and I showed him. And I showed him that you could pick up screws and nuts and bolts and whatever. And he's like, hey, why didn't it work? I said, well, you had to activate it. And so I told the guy, I said, you need to put it in a microwave. And I said, you can't just put a metal tool in a microwave. You need to put it inside a Ziploc bag and then make sure that it's pointed north and south with the direction of north and south. I said, so that way the magnetization will be centered with how it is on the earth. And he bought it. It was hilarious. So next thing I know, I get a call from another maintenance captain, and he's like, Wilson! And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, did you tell him to put tools in the microwave? And I'm like, yeah, I told him to align it north and south so he could magnetize the tools. And yeah, he got a little bit mad with me. So, but it was hilarious because he blew out the microwave. So, yeah, that was a fun one. I enjoyed that. So, but it was an old microwave. I mean, in all honesty, it was a very old microwave. So it wasn't that big of a deal. But it was pretty funny though. He never lived it down. They brought it up in meetings and all kinds of stuff. So the other thing I wish besides this little thing, this thing is so hard. Good Lord, that is like, if you have filament trapped in here and you have to actually hold this, it's just in a bad position on this. So hopefully when they do their next CFS / dryer / whatever else it's going to be, hopefully they'll take that into account. So just double check on these. But yeah, that was pretty funny. The microwave thing was funny. So we had a good time with it. Let me see, I got all the teeth in here. It's hard to... Yeah. So we're not missing any teeth on these connectors here. If you look down inside the hole, you can see the teeth lining. And possibly, if you don't, then that means, yeah, one of those teeth could have broken off, gotten into a tube, and that could be causing your problem. But yeah, notice how these are made. There's no replacing these, which is, I really wish you would be able to replace the PTFE connectors on here and with some other parts as well. But you can't, so, oh well. Let's see, this is going to go there. That is going to click on to there, and we'll go in there. Make sure nothing gets caught. So we're good there. And I'll take these PTFE tubes and put those in there. And again, make sure nothing is being crimped. Good. Alrighty. And yeah, I've got over 1,000 hours on this thing now. So it's kind of neat. Oops, I could put that in there like that. I've been happy with it so far, but I am thinking about getting another one. Either another K2 Plus or maybe the H2S. But then I was talking about that on another stream on how I'm thinking about holding out, because you have the Snapmaker U1 that has their multi-head system that came out for multicolor. Of course, it cuts down on the amount of poop and all that. But Index Bondtech is coming out with their Index. I'm not sure what company is going to be doing them. I heard somebody say, I think it was going to be Bamboo, or not Bamboo, but Prusa. So if they come out with that, I don't know. But then I saw another guy, he was saying that it would be Soval, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. So I'm not sure. So if anybody's heard what company is going to go with the Index from Bondtech, yeah, that would, so I'm kind of holding out on that as well. But the price on the H2, the H2S isn't bad. It's $12.50, and for that, that's a pretty good deal. I think it's always label all my stuff. So if you're wondering what the black Sharpie is, I have like SS for silver short. So that way if I ever make any mistakes or forget, and then like this one here, long silver or silver long. Something that you're going to be taking apart more often than you probably should. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm got a little bit of birthday money, and I got some money, some YouTube money. I just got to figure out how to get it from my Google sent to me or into my account. I got to do online, I guess. And I think we should be good to go. So I'm kind of holding out for maybe an index system. That would be pretty good. So we had, I think that was the culprit right there, which is an odd thing, but not too odd because, and the reason I say that is because I had the filament in here, and I had it in here for quite some time. And my desiccant that was in here had pretty much all turned black. So I didn't have, the desiccant wasn't any good. I think the temperature, or not the temperature, but the humidity was like 45 or something like that. It had gotten pretty high compared to what it was before. So I ended up drying the filament. I'll go ahead and re-dry that. I'll get I got a big desiccant pack. And so I'll go through and I'll reactivate that and get everything set and get the humidity down. So yeah, it's been months since I did the desiccant and stuff like that. And so what I found is that the PLA filament that I was using was pretty brittle, especially the gray. The gray was more brittle than the red. So yeah, I went ahead and dried that for like 6 hours for the gray and the red. I'm going to do the other two and see if I can get this up and running to do that little kit card. And I think we should be good. So that is the teardown. So we're going to cross the fingers and see what happens. But other than that, yeah, nothing too crazy or out of the ordinary. But I am looking forward to getting another machine, which is something I definitely want to get. And then start doing more on the cosplay stuff. So my super geek, my master geek glasses for painting miniatures. But yeah, definitely want to get more into the cosplay stuff. Again, working on the Borderlands, which is kind of fun and interesting, and doing the cell shading. And so I ended up getting more markers. And then so I got black, and then I just got in the order for these white markers. So it's water-based acrylic. So this will be, that is some big honking markers. So yeah, we'll see how those go. Haven't even opened these up yet. Shake it, bent. So I'm assuming press that down, press, and then right. Oh, and here's a, look at the size of that marker. Holy crow, that is crazy. And I'm looking at getting, because I also had some metallic Sharpies. So I got a regular black Sharpie, and then I got some metallic Sharpies that turned out really good. I was really happy with those. And I'm thinking about buying some more acrylic Sharpies. So we'll see how that goes. I wonder how this is going to turn out. starting. There it goes. So yeah, look at that. We can get a little bit of a Sharpie action here. So let's say if we're gonna put some little lines on here. So do some little cell shading. Okay, so apparently that works. Alrighty, we're good to go. Turned out good. Acrylic paint pen, water base, they are. Cool. So, hey, let's just continue on. Which was that one? I think it was that one. Yep, it was that one. Let's just go ahead and we'll do a little bit of accent colors. Nice. Talk about board. Cool. I like this. I like it. I like it. Oh, it comes out pretty easy too. Cool. Alrighty, I like it. So apparently these work. Good to know, good to know. What about the black? I'm pretty sure the black works. People are like, what the hell is he doing? Yep, they work. Huge, monstrous. Okay, so now that we added shapes and colors and stuff like this, hopefully that will be the appeasement to the Creality CFS gods that there are, and hopefully this will be able to start up. So we'll be able to get that print going again, and we should be good to go. Well, that dries pretty quick. Yeah, maybe. Maybe a little bit. Maybe just dry a little bit. So there it is, the teardown for the CFS, and we'll see. The important part is going to be when we do this whole thing, and I really wish you'd be able to see the circuit board. So when you have the lights on here, that would really help be able to have the circuit board on this side and have the lights or an indicator. You know, you can see here that you've got those switches that will tell you whether filament's in there or not, but the problem comes with one of those lights, and you can't see that on this side. So hopefully Creality, if you're paying attention on your next CFS system, which needs to have a dryer and a heater, that you will relocate this thing here somewhere where it's a little bit more easily accessible. That's like a pain in the ass to try to get to whenever I have to deal with stuff. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I did hear some rumors that Creality is going to be working on a multi-head system. So that hopefully we'll wait and see how that goes. Of course, everybody's working on a multi-head system. So, alrighty, so now that we did this, let's go back to the desk and we'll take Mr. Microphone with us and try not to knock over lights or things or Thanos. I hit Thanos a little bit. And we will come back here. Boom! We're back. Alrighty, so there it is. What we ended up doing is playing around with the CFS system, and hopefully that will alleviate the problem of that FR28, what was it? The FR2835, the feed error from the loader to the CFS hub. Hopefully that will, and I'm out of coffee. Oh no. Hopefully that will fix the problem there. But yeah, some of the things, somebody was telling me that Creality is currently working on a multi-head system, kind of like the Index, kind of like the Bamboo H2D, where it had the two heads on there, which is, I knew that was going to happen. I'm just saying, I knew that Bamboo was going to come out with the biggest, most expensive machine, and then after that they were going to come out with the later versions, which were less expensive. And there was a number of people that I've chatted with that they're like, yeah, I bought the H2D, but really all I wanted was the H2S. So they ended up spending a bunch of money. But yeah, it's kind of a thing. Looking forward to see Snapmaker U1. That is very tempting as well. Matter of fact, let me bring that up. Snapmaker U1 and how much that comes in. I think it's around $800, $850 US. So, and it has 4 heads on it. That is very tempting. And a lot of people have done reviews, said it's a really great system. I don't know how much testing that they've actually done. You know, are they running it constantly for, you know, a couple of months and, you know, getting 500 or 1,000 hours, you know, getting some triple digit numbers or even 4-digit numbers as far as printing? I don't know. But that is something. Motor Guy pops up, says, hello, Mr. Motor Guy. So we just finished tearing down the CFS and putting it back together. I think we found the culprit, which is a little piece of red filament that we had. And so, yeah, there's that. So hopefully that'll fix the problem on that. And then now we're just kind of BSing around and talking. So, but about multi-material systems that are coming, or multi-head systems that are coming out, kind of like the Bondtech Index system with the coil induction heating. And you've seen if you haven't seen it, if you've been living under a rock, but Index has those coil systems, coil heads that heat up super quick, really efficient, really light. And again, you're not going to waste a lot of filament on purging and pooping and so on and so forth, because you could have a dedicated head for each filament. And if you could have like 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 or whatever, but the Snapmaker, that looks pretty good. The only thing I don't like about that is it's so damn small. So if we take a look here and we can see some of the information, 4 tool heads, preloaded, preheated materials, cuts waiting time by 5 seconds by swapping tool heads, which is great, enabling 5 times more speed and 5 times less waste. And again, this is going to be a thing that so many companies are going to be getting into. Bamboo is supposed to have their Vortex. I think I saw it. It was a Vortex and had like 4 or 5 different tool heads. You have the Bondtech with their Index system. Of course, now you have Snapmaker U1, which has 4 tool heads. Smart calibration, Core XY. The only thing I don't like about it is that right there, 270 by 270 by 270, which is respectable. that's a respectable size, but the standard has been 256 cube for such a long time. And really, with so many different machines coming out that are much larger, I really don't understand why they went with 270. If they went up to 300, 350, they could have captured a huge chunk of the market. But they still can, matter of fact. But I think it'll be smart to kind of hold off and see what Bamboo comes out with, see what supposedly Prusa comes out with, if they go with Bondtech and so on and so forth. Motor Guy says, just got in an argument with my Korean wife because she doesn't know what she wants to do in America job-wise. She wants to go back to Korea. Oh, yeah, that could be an issue. We live in Korea. We retired in Korea. So we've been here just over 3 years, and we made the jump from the United States to Korea. We sold the house, the car, the guns, the ammo, the whole 9 yards, everything, except for stuff in a couple of suitcases. And then we traveled, spent a year on Oahu visiting our daughter who's going through residency, and then we came to Korea and said, yep, we're going to stay. So we got here on a tourist visa. We did the F1 and F4 visa, and boom, we've been here for just over 3 years now. Matter of fact, it's 3 years and 1 month. We got here 1 October, 3 years ago. So it's 3 years and, I don't know, 5 days, 6 days, something like that. But yeah, that could be. So she doesn't know what she wants to do in America, and she wants to go back to Korea. I get that. I mean, it ends up, excuse me, with, when we, are you still in the military, or are you retired, or are you civil service or contractor? I kind of don't know how old you are, so that could make a difference. Motor Guy says, your wife got U.S. citizenship. Yes, she did. We went that route, and she wanted to become a U.S. citizen, so she was a Korean citizen. We got married, had to get permission from the military. Back then, that was a thing, and then came to the United States. We spent a number of years, and she was on a green card, and then she decided to become a U.S. citizen. And then when we came back to Korea, that's when we found out she could get an F4 visa that would allow her to come back to Korea. And then I have the F1 visa, and that would allow me, as the spouse of an F4 visa holder, to be able to stay in Korea. And then, of course, there was, we had to be able to prove that we have enough funds and background checks and all that stuff. So, Motor Guy says, currently stationed in the U.S. Okay, so you're still military. Okay, got it. That is, I retired a quick minute ago. It was, I retired from the military in 2005. And then I worked for Colorado. I did real estate investing. I did firearms instruction. I was an instructor, did contracting work, security, upscale security. And then, worked for the Department of Corrections in Colorado, and lieutenant and electronics technician and stuff like that. And then I quit that job, then did prison ministry, and then for a few years. And then after that, I worked upscale security for G4S, and then quit. And then, of course, we found Korea had those visas. So Motor Guy says, what did your wife do in America? We did a number of things. We had our daughter, and so she primarily stayed home and raised our daughter. So there was that. Of course, she had to learn how to drive. This is way back in the day, how to do a checkbook and, do all that stuff, which she's super smart. So it was like, she's smarter than me. But she worked a series of jobs. She worked in a bakery for a while. She tried to do the haircut thing. Yeah, that didn't take. That wasn't a thing that she was interested in at all. She worked in child care. She worked in a bakery. Let's see what else she did. She worked for a nonprofit. She did senior care, assisted senior care. She did that. And then there was something else she did too. I can't remember it. Motor Guy says, I'm scared if I'll make enough for both of us after I get retired. Um, yeah, I mean, that's always a concern. I mean, we ended up, we ended up with the time that we had in the United States, we threw money at our mortgage. And we didn't know that we were going to retire in Korea or retire overseas. But we wanted to pay off our mortgage, so we're really frugal with our money. I was the spender, she's the saver, so she's taught me how to save. But we made a concerted effort to pay off our mortgage. So when it came time for us, and we were afforded the opportunity to, perhaps go overseas, we sold our house when the market was high, so we made some good money on our house, and we bought a series of houses that were bank owned, and then we'd go in, live in them, and fix them up at the same time. And then after 2 or 3 years, we'd sell it and then move on to another house. And then we'd throw more money onto the principal of the mortgage. So, we just, and then any extra money we had, we just threw towards the principal. So that helped us a lot. We bought the apartment that we're in now, which is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. And your housing is going to be your largest expense. And so if I had any advice, get out of debt. go crazy, pay off everything, and if you can pay off your house and you can sell when the market is high, then you can take those funds which should normally be tax-free if you live in a house like 2 out of 5 years or something like that, more than 2 years. All those proceeds will be tax-free up to a limit. I think it's like $500,000. So tax-free, and then, if you decide to move, you could use that money to, buy another place, or if you retire in the United States, you go to some place where housing is less expensive, then, you can do something like that, or put half down and get a lower payment. And again, it depends on your retirement and other monies that you have coming in. So, that was always a concern, and I just couldn't see that we were going to be able to make it in the United States. I mean, we looking at all the expenses. I know we're getting off 3D printing, but I was looking at all the expenses. The trash, the water, the property taxes, the vehicle registration, all of that stuff. It's just absolutely crazy because that stuff would go up each and every year, and then you start to do the math and say, well, I have this many years until retirement, and then you're like, holy crap, I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford retirement. And so that's when we started looking at overseas retirement, but nothing really clicked. Japan doesn't have doesn't have a retirement visa. I'm pretty sure they don't. If they do, it's got to be something like you got to have like a ton of money. Let me check on that and see. So let's see. Does Japan have a retirement visa? I don't think they do. I'm going to say no. Motor Guy says she wants to live in Korea or Japan after I retire, but there's no way I could get a job in Japan. No jobs for me in Japan since I'm in the Army. Then he pops up and says, my wife said they allow dual citizenship in Korea now if you're like 60 years old. Actually, they will do dual citizenship for her, and it's 65. So it might be a few years until you can do that. But Japan does not have a dedicated retirement visa program like other countries. So there's that. You'd have to look into something else. But they do have a designated activities visa. Long stay visa for sightseeing recreation is often used by wealthier individuals for extended stays. But you have to have like 30 million Japanese yen, which is $200,000 as of 2025. It's granted up to 1 year and can be renewed, but it's not specifically for retirement, and it prohibits work. Japan doesn't have a retirement visa. Korea does, but you have to invest like $500,000. But, the thing is that with her being a Korean, she would be able to come back here to Korea, and then you could get the visa as an F1 visa as her spouse. Now, of course, you're going to have some type of job, your retirement. I'm assuming it's a military retirement. I don't know if you're officer or enlisted. If it's enlisted, depending on your rank, yeah, I don't know. It depends on where you live, but military retirement for enlisted isn't really that good. Let's see. But yeah, for the citizenship for her, she would have to wait until 65 to get dual citizenship with Korea and the United States. Motor Guy asked a question. So your wife used to own a bakery in the U.S.? No, she worked at a bakery. So she did that for a few years, and worked at a nonprofit, then that did senior care and assisted care and things like that. So she did that, and so she never owned a business in the United States. She worked for businesses, so she was always an employee, whether it was brick and mortar business or whether it was nonprofit. So she kind of did that stuff there. Terry pops in and says, "Hey, Japan is tightening up their immigration policies right now." I know, yeah, that. Matter of fact, we talked about that in a previous video. Japan used to have like a business visa to where you could put in for a business visa. You have a business in Japan. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, the amount of USD was like $35,000. You could start a business, do a little ramen shop or whatever it is, but it was getting so abused by Chinese and other nationalities that the recent crackdown on Chinese is during the next 3 years, instead of just $35,000, now it's been bumped up to, I think, like $200,000. A lot of changes, and Chinese and other nationalities are scrambling because a lot of them aren't going to be able to do it. Motor Guy says, "Is it possible for you to get Korean citizenship as well?" Yes, there is. I would have to do, I think, 3 to 5 years. But within that, I would also have to learn the Korean language. I'd have to take a language test, so on, yada, yada, yada. My Korean is, I should know more than what I do. But yeah, that's probably not the route I'm going to go. It's just not, that's not in the cards for me. I don't see the benefit of doing that. I would like to keep my U.S. citizenship, and I can do that as an F1 visa holder under my wife. But I could go for the F513 visa. But the problem is that takes a big chunk of change. It's like twice the GNI of Korea, gross national income, which is around $72,000, $73,000. So you have to have a good income and, of course, pass background checks and so on and so forth. But it takes like 6 to 9 months to get that approved. And if it gets approved, it's good for 10 years. And then to renew it, all you have to do is go in and update your fingerprints every 10 years, and I think your address, but it's good for another 10 years. So you have a long stay visa in Korea with the F513. I'm still scrambling to try to get enough money to meet that income requirement, but that's the goal, is to get that F513. And it's good for 10 years. So if it's good for 10 years, I can keep my U.S. citizenship. My wife, she can keep her citizenship through the F4 visa. When she hits 65, she can get the dual citizenship, which is something that she might do. We're considering that, but got a few years. Got a few years to hit that. I just hit 59. She's a couple years younger than me, so it's going to be a little bit. Motor Guy says, "How often do you have to renew your visa?" The F1 visa and the F4 visa are good for, let me double check because I don't want to give the wrong. Korean F1 and F4 visa terms, because I think it's like 3 years or 5 years. And I think it's 5. but every couple of years, like every 2 years, you got to renew, and then another time you renew for 3 for a total of 5 or something like that. And so whatever, do 3 and then do 2, so it comes out to 5, and then you have to renew the F4 and the F1 visa, and that the price of that is, it's not bad. When we applied for our F1 and F4 visa 3 years ago, it was like we used an immigration lawyer here in Korea, which was great. She was awesome. Their office is close to Osan Air Base in Songtan, and they're in the same building as Korean immigration. So they're up on all the information. But it ends up that, it was like $550, depending on the exchange rate. Let me see. Requirements. Duration of stay is 2 years. So yeah, for the F1 visa, it's 2 years, and then you can extend, I think, 2 more or 3 more or something like that. The F4 visa is up to 3 years. So I think my wife's is 3 years. Mine was 1 year when we initially started. And then we had to submit some more documents when it was time for renewal. We did our marriage certificate and the birth certificate of our daughter, and then I was able to get a longer term on my visa. So the first one was like 2 years, and this next one ends up 3, but then we'll have to redo it. So that's why I come up with that number 5. Renew every 2 or 3 years. And then after 5 years, we have to redo, because you extend for 2 or 3 years, but then you have to redo everything at the end of 5 years. Motor Guy asked a question, are there many retired American Korean international companies that live in Onjungri? There's some, yeah. There's us. I know like 3 or 4 other couples. There's some other people that I know that are retired here that we don't know personally. We're kind of a small niche. We got a few friends that we hang around with. We're kind of particular with who we hang around with. But there are some couples, but they tend to be older than us. And like I said, we retired early. I retired when I was 54, almost 55. We retired early, and then the other people that we know, they're a few years older than us. And then another couple that I know, they're older. And then another guy that I know, him and his wife are, he's in his 70s. So yeah, there's some veterans out here. There's some retirees and their Korean spouses and stuff like that. So, and a number of them live in Anjingni. Some of them live, I know one couple that lives out in the sticks, like way out in the sticks, like in rice paddies and mountains. They went that route. It was like 250 or 300 grand that they paid to refurbish the house and so on and so forth. And looks like a great place, nice and quiet. But then there's other people that live in apartments like us, and it was it. Motor Guy says, was it ever an option for y'all to keep the house in America and retire in Korea? May I ask why you decided to sell the house? Sorry for asking too many questions. It doesn't matter. Questions, no problem. Because we already finished up with the 3D printing thing, so I just got to plug that in, and that'll be off camera. But we thought about that, about keeping our home in the United States and renting it out. But we had done real estate investing in the past, and we got burned. We got burned by family in a real estate business that we had. Family members defrauded the company, and it was horrible. Their bankruptcy and foreclosures. It was a really rough thing. So that left a bad taste on our mouth. And we just really didn't want to deal with anything. So even though the house was paid off, we could have rented it out for, I think at the time, it was like $2,400 a month. We could have rented out our house. But then we'd have to bring that here, and then we would have to pay rent here. So we figured, our thinking was just sell the house, take the proceeds, and we'll buy an apartment here. And we still have money left over. So, and we're saving up some nickels and dimes, and we're thinking about buying another apartment. So that we'll rent out and bring in some cash flow. But yeah, we thought about it, but we just didn't want to deal with being long distance landlords and management companies. The management companies that I dealt with in the past had just got progressively worse, and it just didn't. Yeah, nobody cares anymore. At least where we were at and where our house was. And you're going to pay 10 or 12% as a management fee, and if somebody doesn't care, that can be horrible. Especially if you get bad tenants. So we just wanted to break free of all that. Yeah. Terry says, Korea doesn't make the top 10 list of places to retire since they don't have a retirement visa. Actually, they do. But I think it's some crazy huge amount of money. I want to say it's like $500,000 that you have to invest in Korea or a Korean business or an existing business. And that doesn't even count, buying an apartment or stuff like that. So, yeah. Let me see if that'll pop up. Motor Guy pops up and says, we just bought a house in America, and my wife keeps mentioning she wants to go back to Korea in the future. Seems like Korean wives do think about going back to Korea sometime. It's in their, I'm going to say nature is what you wanted to say next. That might be it there. The funny thing about that, though, that wasn't the case with us. It was like, I was actually the one that, I wanted to retire overseas because that would actually allow us to retire early or just retire, period. Otherwise, I would have to work until I was like, almost 70. Didn't want to do that. High stress job. It was killing me. It was just not, the wife wasn't interested in coming back to Korea, to be honest with you. And so when I started looking about overseas retirement, she was like, oh, okay, well, that could be interesting. We'll see. And so we started checking like Thailand, South America, some other countries and stuff like that. But nothing really clicked. Thailand, let's see what else. There's a couple other countries. Costa Rica, Puerto Rico. It's just nothing really clicked. And then we found out that we could go to Korea because of the wife's ancestry. And so I was the one that was interested in doing that. Let's see. People probably retire in Korea because we are just married to them. Otherwise, we wouldn't even visit there. Sorry, tired. It's almost 2 a.m. here. Yeah, it probably. Yeah, a little tired. Pretty interesting. So I was the one that came up to her and said, hey, what do you think about retiring overseas? And she's like, well, we've been talking about that. And I said, well, we can retire in Korea. She didn't even think of that. And we had been gone from Korea, from her family, being military and traveling around and so on and so forth. We came back to Korea a couple times, but it just wasn't in her. She didn't think about it at all. But when it showed that it was possible, and with the sale of our house, we could get an apartment or a house or something like that, and then with our retirement and other funds that we have, that it was entirely doable, and then that just got the ball rolling. And then, of course, my shitty job kind of pushed us in that direction as well. So Terry says, yeah, it's 500,000, pretty much out of the reach of most people. Yeah, I thought it was 500,000. That's like the high value investments, like $500,000 US, while hiring 5+ Korean nationals, maintaining 300 million Korean won public business investment for 5+ years, or 700 million Korean won in real estate for 5+ years. And that's not talking about your primary residence. So yeah, I had seen that before, but when we found out that we could do the F4 and the F1 visa, that was like, hey, we can do that. We can't do there's another one, F2 visa, investors and seniors, 55 and over, through investment of 300 million Korean won, about 220,000 as of November 2025, or 700 million. So yeah, it's some obscene amount of money for that Korean visa, which I don't know anybody who does that. My wife mentions it that all the time. I don't know if she's just homesick phase or she permanently wants to go back. My wife got homesick. Yeah, I mean, she grew up Korea. We met, we courted for a year, we got married, we stayed here. Uh, Wife got pregnant, we had her daughter, and then 3 weeks later, we ended up going to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So we did that, and then yeah, she was homesick big time. And of course, there's all the rumors of, at least back then, of, oh, you married a GI, they're going to take you to the States and they're going to abandon you and you're going to have a child and you're not going to, all of the bad things. Of course, I didn't go that route. But yeah, it's, you definitely get homesick. But as that forced us to grow together as a couple, and then we relied on each other, and then, of course, there's a few times that the wife was able to come back and visit. And then we got restationed in Korea, so we're able to visit family and so on and so forth. So, Motor Guy says, would you say it's hard to live in Anjuni without a car? Not hard. Inconvenient at times, because, it's kind of both. It probably wouldn't be bad. You could do it. Yeah. You got the open air market, the 3/8 market, which is open on days that end in a 3 or an 8. That's walking distance from where we live, so it's not a big deal. But if you went on the military base, you could always catch taxis. If you went to the commissary, the PX, did a shopping run and came back and to wherever you live, you can always catch a taxi. So you could do that. But the car just definitely makes it a lot better. And we spent 2.5 months, maybe 3 months without a car, and that was a little rough. So, but it's doable. But I'm a little bit older, so that kind of, we're like, I can't wait to get a car. But we had to wait until we got our F1 and F4 visas, and then we were able to get the car. So Terry says there are thousands of Americans retiring overseas because they can't make it on Social Security in the States. Yeah, that is absolutely true. Motor Guy says, I'm currently stationed at Fort Knox. Ooh. No, haven't been there. I was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Kind of close-ish. The question, was your wife in a big Korean community? Kind of. Back then, it ended up that American GIs, you marry your Korean spouse, and then you come to the United States, you get stationed at a military base, and there's always Korean American churches. I'm sure you've probably heard of that. But those used to be really big. And so it was a big central hub for Korean Americans coming together and to be able to support each other and so on and so forth. So I don't know if it's still that way now, but there's still a lot of Korean churches in the United States, and they're really supportive. So I heard there are many Koreans around Fort Campbell. Yeah, there was a lot. Motor Guy says, yeah, my wife didn't like me walking around the Ville because of the Juicy Girls. Duh. But, but then after we got married, it ended up you have that Korean connection, and that anything that I did, everybody knew about it, So, and then she didn't have to worry about me and Juicy Girls. She's my only Juicy Girl. So. Yeah, she preferred me. Yep, absolutely. So, so that's what we got going on. Yeah, it's an interesting thing being retired over here. You definitely got to have the funds, no matter where you go. Depending on your retirement, I don't know how many more years you have. Are you how many years out are you from a military retirement? And if you're enlisted, or looking at being like what, senior enlisted, E78 or something like that. I don't know. Motor guy says, yeah, we went to a Korean market the other day, and some Ajumma came up and lectured us that we need to come to their church. Oh yeah, yeah. You'll get that. You'll get that. For 30 minutes. Yeah, you'll still get some of that here in Korea as well. Matter of fact, you'll have people that'll stop you. Hey, here's a free this or that, or washcloth or whatever it is. Hey, come to our church and blah 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 blah. They're always proselytizing and stuff like that. But yeah, we don't hang around for 30 minutes. Yeah, that's not our thing. So, yeah, it is kind of. They'll do that. So they do it here in Korea. They do it in the United States, at least in our experience. And yeah, it is interesting stuff. So yeah, the retirement thing for you, motor guy, would be dependent upon how much you make and how much debt you have and whether you want to do it or not. And depending on if you're going to try to work, getting jobs over here in Korea is not impossible as a retired military or somebody who got out of the military before retirement. But with the hiring freeze that they had and now the government shutdown, a lot of that has been hampered. So, yeah, something to take a look at. A lot of people would say get a job with USA Jobs and the listings there, and then try to get stationed over here in Korea. And that you'd have a lot better chances of doing that. Not 100%, but, there's that. All right, man. He says, all right, man, I'll let you go. Thank you for talking to me. No problem. Sure. If you want to, matter of fact, motor guy says, well, I only have GED, so I don't think that they will hire me in Korea. You know what? Depends. Depends on your job. What you did in the military, that can transfer over. Check out USA Jobs and start looking for jobs that are in your MOS category, and you would be surprised. You might be surprised. So, but yeah, I don't know how many years you got left, but yeah, attack that debt, get out of debt, whether you retire in the United States or overseas or Korea or some other country or whatever, get out of debt now as soon as possible and then start throwing money for retirement. That's always a good thing. Roth IRA, whatever it is, stuff like that. Yeah, be smart with the money. I wasn't so smart with my money. Yeah. But if you want to, if you have any other questions, officiallyburiedlife@gmail.com. So there's my email address, and anybody can email me, say hi or whatever if you have questions about retirement overseas. Motor guy says he's retiring in 3 years. Okay, cool. You're on the downhill. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, that's good. 3 years, depending on your debt situation. But if you want to email me any more questions or want to talk about or ask questions, talk or whatever, shoot me an email. I always answer my email. And yeah, share our experiences and yeah, no problem whatsoever. I like helping out other vets. You are welcome, sir. You are welcome. So there it is. That's what we end up doing. So yeah, we worked on the CFS. We took that apart, cleaned it out. Hopefully that big chunk of red PLA was the culprit, and that will fix everything. Hopefully that is the case. And then I dried out my PLA filaments, so there's that. Hopefully that will take care of that. And I'm going to dry the other two reels and redo some of that as well. And purple blue piece. Always. Appreciate it. Stop by anytime. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And I've got other videos about retiring in Korea. So I've got a playlist on the page somewhere on there, and it'll kind of show a little bit of our journey and how we retired here and some of the other stuff. Yeah, check it out if you want. If not, no big deal. So, But yeah, glad you stopped by. Thanks for asking questions. I love to help people out. So, Motor Guy says, my wife probably won't let me sell this house, though, even if we decide to go to Korea. Hmm? Could be a good investment, yeah. I mean, I can see that point of view as well. So, but whatever you do, whatever you guys do, make sure you do it together. So, yeah, because if you don't, there's people who have done stuff and they weren't on the same page, and there's a lot of angst and frustration. Let's just put it that way. So, yeah. But yeah, you keep the house, it should appreciate. Again, throw money at the principal, pay it down, get it off, get out of debt, and that will definitely help. Yeah, like you said, yeah, probably rent it out. That would be a way to go. So I know a few people that are doing that. Some people did like us, and they just sold everything and liquidated everything like we did, and just came over here to retire. But yeah, both ways work. Just got to find the one that works for you. So cool, Motor Guy. Hey, send me an email. Let me know what's going on. If I can help in any way. Share what I know, and if I don't know, I'll let you know. So, let's see. What else do we got going on? I think that's about it. So, going back to the 3D printer stuff, multi-head system like the Snapmaker U1, that looks really good, but the build area is really small. It's 270 cubed, which is still a pretty significant size. It's like $850. That's not bad. It's pre-order. So it's just kind of a smaller build area, but I want to hold out for that Bondtech index. So let's see. Motor Guy says, you know any people like TJ? TJ. I'm not sure who you're talking about. Any like TJ? Living in Korea and rent out in America. Yeah. Yep. There's some people that do that, and they've got really good management companies. These people have also paid down their mortgages significantly on those properties, so they're getting a little bit more profit than carrying a full mortgage, full price mortgage. So in other words, they were able to knock down the mortgage and then refinance, so it was kind of like about half. And so they have a larger profit coming in every month. And again, your management fee is probably going to be around 10 or 12%. So that's going to be taken off the top. You're going to have incidentals and repairs, and all of that stuff is going to come into play. And if anything needs fixed, you got to pay a repair guy through the management company. So that's going to be more money going out. So usually people that kind of the rule of thumb is that if you could rent out your property, pay your mortgage company, and maybe make $50 or $100, that you were doing good. That's slim pickings. But it depends on rents. There's so many other variables that come into play. But yeah, it's totally doable. I mean, there are people that do it, but most of the few people that I know that don't have big mortgages. So they're able to pay down the mortgage, refinance, and so with the lower interest rate, not a big a principal, and they're just focused on paying that off. So they'll always pay extra on the interest. They'll pay their mortgage payments twice in a month. So you knock down the interest and stuff like that. All those little tips and tricks that you can do. Yeah. But there's people that do that, and it's a thing. Just got to see what works for you. So, yeah, cool, good stuff. So anyway, that's what we got going on. The CFS thing, we got that. I'm gonna have to order some parts, so I'm gonna have to get onto Amazon and see if I can order parts. Creality, Creality store, I'll have to check on that and see if I can order parts, because I ordered some parts. and we'll see how that goes. Motor guy pops up again and he says, how do they keep their furniture in America? Storage? No, they just, some people, when they came to Korea, what they ended up doing is shipping a lot of their furniture over here to Korea. And so you're looking at $3,000, maybe $4,000 for a container. They ship a bunch of stuff, you know, the beds and whatever furniture, you know, boxes of family mementos or whatever it is, because they wanted to keep that stuff. We didn't go that route. I don't know anybody that has stuff in storage in the United States. So, and the people I do know that rent out properties, the house is empty and they just rent it out. You know, the tenants supply their own furniture, so it's not a thing. And again, the people that I know are here for the long haul. You know, that's they're not planning on going back to the United States. So they're pretty set in their minds to stay in Korea. Motor guy says, we don't have kids, but we got a boatload of stuff. Yeah, we did too. Holy crow, we had so much stuff. FDSS, what a name. Says, what parts are available and which ones are showstoppers for the CFS? I would say the 5-way for the CFS is going to be one of those, or if you could buy the individual cards for that, the little circuit boards on there, I would definitely get that for the CFS. Everything else is pretty much, it's not that big of a deal. Let me see if I can find K2 Plus compatibility. Hot ends. Camera, don't need to worry about. CFS, no, you wouldn't need that. Pro nozzle, no, you wouldn't need that. Pretty much just that 5-way. Or the, here it is, let me show this. So here is the Creality site, and there's the CFS feed and return kit. So there's that there. That's not CFS, that's not CFS. Filament detection, that's not it there. I don't know if they have the full 5-way on here. I've seen it on like Amazon. Extruder motor. So that's for the CFS, that's for the CFS. So Amazon has got some stuff. Buffer kit, I've had to replace that. So, yeah. Creality site doesn't have a lot of stuff. If you go to Amazon, you'll see more stuff with Amazon. So, for example, if we pull this up right here, there's the CFS 5-way. So you have the kit there for that whole assembly. That's like $45. There's other ones that I saw for like $39, $37. But that seems to be the biggest one right there, is your 5-way, is something that you're going to need to replace. And that's why I was looking at this, to see what the prices are and the difference between Amazon versus Creality. And then I got to go look on like Naver. So there's one for 56,001, and then I don't think I saw any on this yet. Well, there's one there for 41,001. So depending on whether I buy it in Korea, but these people are going to buy it probably from China, and then they resell it. So yeah, but that 5-way is definitely, or that kit there, feed return kit, would be something. Let's see. Sorry about the name. I'm a little salty from a stay in foster care. My mom has 2 Creality High, and she already managed to toast a board on the print head. What else? Wait a second. But she was saying one's upgraded. I don't know which part. Yeah, I don't know. The Creality High, I thought about getting one of those, but I didn't. I held off because I was like, let me hold off on that. But you could definitely send a message to Creality and find out, stuff like that. And they're pretty decent. I think Creality gets a bad rap because mainly it's that time difference between China and the United States. So, but yeah, you should be able to find it. Or if you go on like Temu or AliExpress or whatever, there are a lot of parts on there for the Creality K2 Plus, and I'm sure you could probably find for the Creality High as well. So, and if we look on, matter of fact, let's take a look here. And if we look at the Creality High, there's the extruder kit, there's the motherboard kit right there. I'm not sure what that is, but they got some parts on the Creality site. Not crazy. The bed, the plate, cutters. So they got a few parts. But I know a lot of people end up using like Temu or AliExpress or stuff like that. So I don't know. Something to look at. Check it out. But yeah, I think I'm going to hold out. It's so tempting because I want to get another printer. But you got the Bamboo H2S, which is like $1,250. You have the K2 Plus, which is like $1,000 now or $1,100 for another K2S just by itself. And then you have like the Ender 5 Max, which is, that's another big one. We talked about this stuff in the previous video stream when we were talking about the Core 1L, which is the large one. But yeah, you look and you see you've got the H2S is $1,250, and that's 340 by 320 by 340. Of course, the K2 Plus is like $1,000. That's 350 cubed. And then you have the Soval, which is 500 cube. That's $1,000. But then you could throw in what was the other machine? There was another machine. What was it? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. I can't remember the other machine. But I mean, just so close. I don't know. We'll see. DSS is your CFS down, or are you pre-stocking spare parts? Actually, it was down. We had the FR2835 code. So in other words, there was a blockage between the feeder and that four-way CFS hub on the bottom, and I kept getting it, and I think we found the culprit, which is a pretty monstrous chunk of PLA. So hopefully that is it. We went through, we cleaned everything out because it was popping up that error, and I've had that before. So cleaning it out, I was able to get those pieces, and I think honestly it was my fault. Honestly, if I had to, yeah, it was probably my fault because I didn't dry the PLA out. Well, I did at one time, but then I let it sit for so long, and then humidity was like 40% or 45%. And then the filament got real brittle. So, yeah, there was that. But yeah, I need to get some spare parts as well. This just kind of highlights that I need to get some spare parts just in case. So, yeah. Hopefully it's back up. We won't do it on this video, but after I get done here, I'll plug in the CFS back to the system and see if it works. DSS says, I like the Cobra S1, but eventually the extruder gear went and the Cobra 3S don't have a camera, so no spaghetti detection. I didn't think you would need a camera, but when I do big prints that are like 20, 30 hours or something like that, helmets or whatever, it's nice having the app and having a camera to check your print, and of course the spaghetti detection, which I haven't had on the K2 Plus. I've had some failed prints, but I haven't had a spaghetti detection warning. So mostly it'll be like something will pop up and say, hey, you ran out of filament, so I have to go home and do that. But for the most part, yeah, cameras are good. Cameras are good. And with the technology of printers nowadays, holy crow, you're looking at machines that 5, 6, 7 years ago, the things that they do now versus then is just like incredible. And then you have things, like the Cobra systems. You have like the Elegoo Centauri Carbon, which is dirt cheap, does some real good prints. And then, Prusa is way more expensive, obviously. But a lot of these companies are just throwing out printers that are just working great. There's always going to be some problems from time to time, but it's come a long way from what they used to be way back in the day. When you spend more time tinkering with the printer than actually printing. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, thinking about it. We'll see what happens. But I think I'm going to hold out for a multi-tool head system. And I've been thinking this over because, I could go with like a K2 Pro or another K2 Plus. I could do that. But really, maybe with Bamboo, if they do that Vortex system with the multiple tool heads, or whatever Bondtech ends up doing, and whatever company uses their stuff. Think about it. If you have like 4 or 5 tool heads, you have 4 or 5 tool heads. I'm mostly print in PLA, and if I do multi-material, at least I could do it. But then it's like spare parts automatically in the system. So you have spare parts built in, is what I'm getting at there. DSS says, I just had that error with a spool of glow-in-the-dark. Was like that. My S1 got took down by a spool of fluorescent green, kept haunting the ACE unit for months after it was finished. Oh no. Yeah, I haven't done any glow-in-the-dark stuff. I haven't done any TPU. I've done PLA, PETG. It was ABS or ASA, but very little of that. The majority of my stuff is PLA. But some people are doing stuff with TPU as far as like cosplay and stuff like that for armor, and that has been really interesting. But it should be noted that it doesn't work with the normal K2 Plus with the tool head and the gears. People that have done it that I've seen anyway, have all metal gears, and they're able to get the TPU to print awesome. So. Interesting. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll get a roll, and I need to get some metal gears, and we'll give that a shot and see how that works. So, yeah, some fun stuff. Fun stuff indeed. And the majority of the problems I had, like one clogged nozzle on the K2 Plus, I switched that out, problem solved. And then I upgraded my bed to a ramen bed, the graphite bed, just because I wanted to. And I went from 0.9696 as far as flatness down to 0.236, something like that. So it made a big difference. But I just did that just for the hell of it. And then I got a micro Swiss hot end on that as well. So. Watch out for the clear transparent PLA. They're way harder on the machine. They are pretty filaments, but rough and brittle. Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you for the little heads up and the warning on that. Like I said, I'll probably, as of this time, I'll leave that caveat. Pretty much just do PLA, but I'm going to be interested in TPU and see how that pops in. So I might get a roll of that and try playing around with that if I get some metal gears for my machine. We'll see how that goes. There's some people that did reviews on some metal gears that they got off of, Temu or AliExpress, all metal gears. And that was the thing that enabled them to print TPU in the K2 Plus with no problems. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just Hardcore heavy metal is always good. Maybe that's it. But yeah, I'll keep an eye out on that transparent. I haven't done transparent or clear. I don't think I will, but you never know. But there's so many cool filaments out there. Holy crow. If I had the money, I would test them all, but I don't have all the money. So we're just going to plug on and do what we do with what we have. So, but yeah, it worked out pretty good. The CFS, hopefully it'll be up and running after this. But I think, like I said, I think I'm going to hold out for a multi-tool head system. And it's not going to be the Snapmaker U1, that's for sure. I want something that's got a little bit more bigger build area. Heard rumors that Creality is making something. Of course, Bamboo is making something. We all know Bamboo is doing that. And then the Bondtech with their index system. Not sure what company is going to be doing that. Some people have speculated that Prusa is going to have an index system, which would be awesome. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. DSS says, I don't remember the brand, but I found some flexible PLA when I was running the basic Ender 3S. The reason I started looking into TPUs, I saw some videos on YouTube about a number of people that did like cosplay armor, like chest pieces and the whole 9 yards, printed in TPU. And so it's flexible, it's moldable. They coat it, boom, paint it. Looks incredible, and it moves. Versus PLA, which obviously doesn't move. So, but that looks pretty good. Terry pops up and says, "Later, Steve. There's a pillow calling my name. My wife just got two more pillows for me. So we're replacing the old ones, coming in with the new ones. So I totally get it. Get some good sleep, Terry. Yeah, it's probably late where you are. So yeah." Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. We'll see you on the next one. Have sweet dreams. Puppy dogs, rainbows, unicorns, and printers. Yeah, all that fun stuff. May all your prints be successful. So for the rest of us here, if anybody's got any question, put them in the comment section. I think we're pretty much going to be winding down unless people got questions or, I don't know, if you've got tips and advice. I'm all for that. Make me smarter. I know nothing of my own. In and of itself, I have nothing, no new information. It's all been passed on by somebody else. So, yeah, it is what it is. That's what most information is. So, but yeah. Ooh, holy crow! What did I do? Okay, we're good. My screen just went. I was like, oh no. But yeah, anybody's got tips or tricks or information and stuff like that, I think we're going to slow down because we've been on here for almost 2 hours. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Please hit the like and subscribe button. That would really, really help me out. I would really appreciate that. Like I said, if you want to email me, there is the email address, official theburiedlife@gmail.com. I answer every single email. That's just the way it is. I'm retired. I have some time on my hands, and I really enjoy the conversations, whether it's showing me what you printed, questions about overseas retirement, or just say hi. Had a guy send me pictures of the meat, the ribs that he smoked the other day, and they look delicious. Yeah, just kind of some cool stuff. So you can always email me. If you want to buy me coffee, that's what these people did over here. But don't feel that you have to do that. Matter of fact, the very best thing that you could do is just like and subscribe to the channel. Don't even worry about the coffee. I can make my own coffee. But if you do, any money will go back into 3D printing and filament and machines and whatever. So, but not needed at all. So I think we're going to close that out. We are done. I'm going to go back after this is over and reinstall the CFS and see if that works. So keep the fingers crossed. And a little call to action. What is your next printer? What printer would you get? Or which printer are you thinking about getting? Put that in the comments because I want to see that as well. We'll see. And then if you could fill me in on some cool stuff. new printers or whatever it is. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not smart. I just regurgitate information. So, but I'd like to see what you all are doing. What are the prints that you're doing? What machines do you have? What machines are you thinking about getting? Yeah, I'd really like to know that stuff. So, and why you made those decisions. So that's your homework. With that said, we're going to go ahead and leave this. The day is done. We're done with this stream. I appreciate everybody watching, and we will see you all in the next video. Peace. DSS, Terry, all those people, motor guy. Let's see, who else do we have here? We had Ra in here. Ferrithus was here. Yeah, so that's it. We're done. You can go now. You want me to go? Okay, I'll finish it. I'll go. All right, we'll see you.